Hi everyone, it's Gemma aka Jam Jar Sews from Instagram, and I've got another exciting project for you today with the lovely people at Bombay Stores Fabrics. So we thought, as Christmas is up and coming, we would do a sew along today for a Christmas party dress. So I wanted to do something in velvet because I think that's in fashion for this party season. I just think it's a really luxurious fabric and also one I haven't worked before, so a challenge for us all. So the fabric I'm really excited to work with today is this lovely deep wine sort of dark red coloured velvet. It's coming up quite light on camera here, but in natural light it's a bit deeper. And it's a gorgeous sort of crushed velvet, so you kind of get a bit of colour variation there. It's got stretch in one direction and the other way isn't stretch. So the pattern does recommend that you use something with a bit of stretch in both directions, but I think this is going to work today anyway. So they've got lots of different velvets available on their website in lots of gorgeous shades, so I recommend checking that out. And you can also get matching thread from Bombay Stores Fabrics as well. The pattern I'm using today is from Mood Fabrics. So as per the coat video I did also on this channel, it's one of the free patterns that you can download, and this one was specifically recommended for velvet fabrics. So the pattern itself is called the Begonia jumpsuit. So this is actually a pattern for a jumpsuit that I'm going to be hacking into a dress. But when you get the pattern, which is completely free to download, you do get the pieces to make a full jumpsuit if you wanted to do pants on the bottom. Because I'm quite new to working with velvet, I'm actually going to hack the pattern, or attempt to hack the pattern, to make a dress instead. The front of the jumpsuit is made up of two pieces. So we have this main piece here, and you cut two of these, and these kind of form the deep V. We have a side part as well for the front to make up the rest of the bodice. On the back we have one main piece of fabric that we cut on the fold, so this is our main back piece, and then we also have side back pieces as well, which we cut two of. We then have the sleeve flounce. I just love any project that involves the word flounce. I think that's fun. So that's this kind of like one big bit. Cut out two of those as well, and then we've got a waistband piece. Once we've assembled the top part, I can then show you what I'm going to do to assemble the pencil skirt. I wanted to kind of talk about a few things about working with velvet. So it's really important with velvet that you pay attention to these arrows that say grain line and check nap. And that's because I think less so with crushed velvet, but with normal velvet, you need to cut all the pieces in the right direction for the nap. Otherwise you're going to get bits that are kind of slightly different colours matching with each other, and that's not going to work out too well. And also, as the fabric that I'm working with is only stretch in one direction, all my pattern pieces to make sure that the horizontal stretch was maximised. So basically, where I was working with this piece, for example, I want the stretch to be the maximum this way, because that's going to curve around my body. The thing about sewing with velvet is that I think it's good when working with fabrics like this to avoid using pins where you can. Outside of the seam allowance, because I'm just a bit concerned about the marks that they might leave in the fabric. So when I cut out my pattern pieces, you can use pattern weights, but I actually just use tin cans and random objects I found around my home. So before we get into actually sewing our pattern pieces together, again, I think it's important to go through some sort of testing steps. So once your machine's set up, we'll start with the first sewing step. The step is working with the main front pieces, and we're just going to pin them or clip them together if you've got clips at this short edge here. You've sewn that short edge together and finished that seam off. The next step is then to fold over wrong sides together the kind of strip of velvet that's equivalent to a width of half the neckline. Basically, we're going to zigzag on the outside to secure that in place. So we don't use a seam allowance there. I'm just going to zigzag as close as I can along the edge. So once you've sewn that together, you should then have something that looks like this. So we've got the right side here. You can see I've zigzag stitched along there to fold this edge down, and that's attached. This is the inside of the garment, so you can see that's attached there. Next step is then to attach our back main panel. Here we go, right way up. The back main panel to the neck and shoulders of your front panel. So obviously this looks a different shape to the top of this. So I'm going to lay mine flat on the floor. I'm going to start by pinning the neckline, and then I'm going to sort of rotate it and go down around the shoulders. So once you've finished that seam, you should then have a bodice that's looking like this. So there are the shoulders there, and there's the neckline there. That's the bodice back, and these two bits on the side are the bodice front. Now, before we attach our back side pieces and our back front pieces, we get to attach our flounces. So the sleeve flounces need to attach to this long seam here. So this is the front of your jumpsuit, and this is the back of it. And we're going to attach the flounces along this long edge, right sides together, and use a 1/2 inch seam allowance again. And there should be some leftover seam allowance on either end to account for attaching it to the waistband. Quick tip as well when you're attaching your sleeves, because there's the shoulder seam here, and then the sleeve is going to attach to the front and the back. I'm just going to find the center of each of the flounces by folding them in half lengthways, and then I'm going to pop a pin there. And then when I start pinning this to the main bodice, I know to match that pin with my shoulder seam, and that means it will be in the center. So once you've sewn your sleeve flounces on, the next step is then to attach your side front and side back pieces. I got slightly confused by the instructions for this, but basically, when you wear the jumpsuit, you have your sleeve, you have your front piece, and then you've actually got your side pieces sort of inside your sleeve, so you can see them just there. So if I look at this top, for example, the side pieces here, this bit is going to be connected under the sleeve flounce. So that means that when you attach your side front and side back pieces, you do it wrong sides together, and you do line it up with your existing front and back pieces, but you sandwich the flounce in between. So for example, on this side back piece, that's the back of the jumpsuit. Here is my flounce, and here is my backside piece. So you do the same for the 2 backside pieces and the 2 front side pieces. And again, you use a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So once you've sewn all your side pieces on, if you look at the inside of your garment, you'll have something that looks like this. So this is our sleeve flounce. These are our side pieces, and these are our main pieces. As you can see, I haven't finished the edges of mine yet because I want to try it on first and just make sure it fits. It's now time to work on our side seams. So to do that, you just pin your back side pieces and your front side pieces together along the side seam here, and we're just going to stitch that again with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Okay, so now we've done our side seams, our bodice is finished. So what you'll have now is you've got the back of your bodice here, and then we've got the side panels here. So we've got the back side panel and the front side panel, and they're just sewn together using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. The next step is to make the bottom part. So if you're making the jumpsuit, that involves assembling your trouser legs together, and the instructions online from Mood give a nice description of how you do that. But as I said, I'm going to hack mine into a dress, which means I'm going to be making a skirt instead. So what I did was I took an existing pencil skirt that I have, which is actually the Tilly and the Buttons BB pencil skirt that I've made, and that's a stretch fabric pattern as well. And then I basically just traced around, I folded the skirt in half, and then I just traced around it onto pattern paper, or you could use newspaper or any paper that you like. Block, which as you can see will need to be cut on the fold here because it's only half a skirt. I then took my waistband piece from the Mood patterns, and obviously once I've cut out my skirt, I need to attach it to the waistband. So the top of my skirt needs to be the similar width to the waistband so that it can fit. But as my skirt is cut out on the fold, I then folded this in half, which gives me the right measurement, and I made sure that this kind of matched up. I've added a little bit more seam allowance, as I said, on the skirt piece just to be cautious, but we can see that those should probably attach together quite nicely. And then I just cut out a front piece and a back piece. So to show you when it's cut out, you basically just have a front skirt piece and a back skirt piece. So really simple, you only need 2 bits. And then what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to attach these together at the side seams and sew it with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. You've sewn your side seams together, you should then have your skirt, which looks like this. And the next step is to sew the waistband. So this is actually just one long piece. So all you have to do is attach it together at the 2 short ends using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. You've sewn your waistband together. The next step is then to attach that to the top of either your skirt or your trousers. So quite simple, you just have to fold it in half and pin it around the top of your skirt piece. And when you sew the waistband to the skirt, I've just matched up where I sewed the 2 short edges of the waistband together with one of the side seams. So now we've finished the skirt piece, we're going to get ready to attach the top to the skirt. And this is the time where it's the beauty of making something yourself. We can kind of amend the fit a bit as we want. So in the pattern, the kind of V is very deep. It almost goes to like beneath your bra line. And personally, I like things that are just cut a little bit higher. So what I'm going to do is I've pinned it in place. I'm just going to sort of fold over the V a little bit more at the bottom, so I've got a bit more coverage. So before I attach the bodice to the waistband, I'm just going to tack that into place with some long running stitches. In order to attach the bodice to the skirt, I've kept the skirt the right side out and I've turned my bodice inside out so that I've got the right sides together. I've then found the center of the front waistband, and all I've done to do that is fold it in half, and you can get the front of the center waistband. And I'm going to align the V so where I've got the center of my V, in terms of where my dress is going to come down, I'm going to pin that in place there. What that means is that the V should then sit in the center of the waistband, so it should properly align. And then I'm going to pin my side seams together. So I'm going to match the skirt side seams with the side seams to my bodice. And then from there, I'll just pin all the way around the outside. Because this is stretch fabric, you don't want to pull it out of place, but you do have a little bit more flexibility than if you're working with woven fabric, which I find is really helpful when you're attaching bodices to skirt pieces. So just a quick note that once you pinned your bodice to your skirt and you've tried to basically you want to try and put the end of the flounces in, so you can see there that they've been tucked into the waistband so that they don't then show on the outside. Then our final steps are just to finish your edges if, like me, you haven't done so already. And then we've just got a bit of hemming to do with the bottom hem, but also I realised I didn't mention earlier, we also need to hem the inside of the armholes to neaten those up a bit. But once you've done those, your lovely dress or your lovely jumpsuit is finished. If you do decide to follow this tutorial and make your own dress or make your own jumpsuit, please tag us on Instagram at @JamJarSews and at Bombay Stores Fabrics. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!